Anyways, hello and welcome.
Hello and welcome.
Oh my God. Hello and welcome to Primordial Threads, the podcast where we talk about relationships and astrology and other shit.
All of the things. Sorry, I was pulling up the rising just to make sure.
Ooh,
okay.
What are we working with?
We got that Libra as intended at 4
Hell
degrees.
yeah. Perfect. Oh, we got it in your location. Awesome.
Yeah, we're recording at 11:26 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is July. Nope, it is August. August 7th.
August 7th,
2022. And we are in a Libra rising chart. Mercury in the 12th house. This should be fun.
I saw that. I saw that Mercury was going to be in the 12th. Like, ooh, let's get deep.
Hello.
Hello and welcome. I'm sorry. It's the Sag moon. We have a Sag moon today amidst this Mars Saturn square. Which it feels a little chaotic, but I'm enjoying it.
Today feels unhinged already, so I feel like the episode is going to be just as unhinged. So
perfect.
Also, today is launch day. So we are the crazy people that decided to launch something during a Mars Saturn square. Everybody laugh.
Ha 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 ha. But we did find things where it is working well with our charts individually, actually. So that's always a lesson, no matter what kind of transits are going on that may feel or be traditionally intense, always look to how it relates to your chart, and not just your chart, but also look back to the last few times you experienced that aspect, because we noticed a couple patterns where we're like, oh wait, this is pretty on brand for what we usually do on Mars Saturn squares. So
listen, my whole life is Mars Saturn, so here we are.
Exactly. So absolutely. So yeah, that kind of leads us in, looking at the relationships of these aspects. Traditionally squares are thought to be a more challenging aspect because it's two signs that are of the same modality, so two cardinal or two mutable or two fixed signs, but they're different elements, so they go, and they're elements that don't necessarily mix well would be the quote unquote thing I would say. That's kind of the, so if for example Aries and Cancer, you have fire and water puts out the fire can't exist while whereas the opposition with Capricorn and Cancer shows them, they're earth and water, so that kind of just, it's the nocturnal diurnal.
Well, it's like there's with the different elements, the like there's the volatile elements and then there's the non-volatile elements. So like fire and air are considered to be more volatile than water and earth, so you have that kind of clash as well, where one wants to go really, really fast and the other one wants to be really stable.
That's a much better explanation of what I was trying to say. Perfect. So this Mars Saturn square, we have Mars in Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius. So Saturn, Saturn is like in domicile. We're coming hot off of the Urano Marahu. The Uranus, Rahu, and Mars conjunction in Taurus. So this is, I saw, who was it? Oh, I can't remember. It might have been S.J. Anderson, said something on Twitter about how, after that conjunction, the Mars, Uranus, Rahu, everyone has to answer to Saturn after hitting that point. So the moon has a conversation with Saturn after hitting the Urano Rahu. Mars is now going to have a conversation with Saturn, so it's like we're now in the reckoning portion of the kind of chaos that was unfolding last week. And for us, that's working well because now this is like the structure that we're implementing. We're doing the thing. So
our ideas were kind of the craziness. And can I side note and tell like a funny story about Urano Marahu? Okay.
Yes, please.
So my dad, he went and he was fixing my sister's house, right? And he drilled through her water heater on the Urano Marahu.
No.
Like a nail straight through.
Oh my God. Of course.
It just like ruined everything. And then they
That
had to stay there for like multiple days to deal with it and fix it.
that was a common thing that I was seeing. Like there
Mhm.
was a lot of that was really interesting last week actually to see. There was a lot of things that were sparked and then had to be dealt with like throughout
Mhm.
the week. And then there was a
Yeah.
lot of other things that came up that were more, it wasn't like something had just suddenly happened. It was more like reactions were happening that had been set in motion from a while ago.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of like results overturns. Like we saw the cops who shot Breonna Taylor are having to answer for their
Mhm.
actions. We
Yeah.
saw Alex Jones answering for his actions with
Yeah.
that chaotic mix
Yeah, it
up of
feels like the
results.
Saturn coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So very interesting to watch. And a good reminder that, we were all expecting a lot of chaos on this, but it
Mhm.
seemed like it turned out more as, I don't know, it didn't feel, I think we might see the results of the chaos coming like later in the
Yeah.
month. But this Saturn square, I feel like, is the first kind of checkpoint where we're looking back and starting to integrate the lessons that have been coming in
Mhm.
over the last week. So it's always important to look beyond your bias,
Mhm.
which I think is going to be a theme for this episode for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because today we're talking about, I don't think we said it yet, but we're
No, we
talking
didn't.
about the we're talking about the foundations of Synastry.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the reason we're here.
Yeah.
Looking at the connections, the language of relationship essentially that can be spoken with astrology. So
Mhm.
the square has been a good lesson and to check your bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah. So I guess let's get into it.
Sure.
Our first kind of overall, we talked about this a little bit in our intro, but what is synastry at the core of it? Um, how would you define synastry?
Ah, I think it's that relating aspect where it's
Mhm.
almost like overlaying two people together and just like seeing what you get, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you create this new little third entity that is the synastry kind of, you know? Maybe
Yeah.
that's not the best way to explain it, but
No, but that's a good point because that's what synastry is in terms of the practice. Like that's what we're doing. We're taking two charts, we're overlaying them together, and we're seeing what the relationship between those two
Mhm.
charts are. And you made a good point that is we often are going to be doing that with people,
Mhm.
but we were also talking earlier about how delineation of transits with your natal
Yeah.
chart.
Mhm.
That's probably the first experience with synastry that a lot of people have
Mhm.
because that's what you're doing. You're looking at your natal chart, looking at the transits, put it on top of each other.
Yeah.
What do they tell you?
Your synastry with the universe, man.
Exactly. Synastry with the the mundane moment that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always, I think you hit it on the head with saying it's relating. It's the relational aspect of astrology
Yeah.
for sure.
Thanks.
You got it, man.
I
um,
guess, do you want to go into like when we generally use it and like who who and what?
yeah. Who, what, where, when, and why? We can hit all of those.
Yeah, we can.
Well, who and what, I guess, kind of go together because
Mhm.
I mean, you can practice synastry with anything. Anything. It's not just limited to, romantic relationships or friendship or family. Like those are three big ones.
Mhm.
The friendship, family, and relation and like romantic relationships.
Yeah.
Um,
Which those are the popular ones that
mhm,
you probably have done or seen.
yeah. But I feel like when you're practicing even electional astrology, you're using an amount of synastry to make sure that the election that you're choosing works with your natal chart. So you
Mhm.
have to look at how those charts go together. You have to see what the relationship is going to be because that's what's at the core of it. It's just the relationships, man.
Everything is related.
I
It's like the
know.
idea that everything's connected and like
Mhm.
we're all vibing out in this little place we call Earth and
Exactly.
we're all
Yeah.
experiencing synastry all the time.
Exactly my point.
We wax poetic on synastry.
Can't like it's oh man, I'm about to go full like love is everything, but like
The
At the heart
Mercury in
of
the 12th house was so loud right now.
like, we don't know how to say it, but love is everything. Like, I guess a better way to kind of talk about how to use synastry would be talking about the kinds of synastry that you can look for.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess for the purposes of this, we'll be talking more about your relationships with other people.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can definitely use like using and delineating transits in relation to your natal chart is synastry. But I think what you and I are a little bit more interested on or in interested on in um is using it to relate to other people, which
Mhm.
is kind of the more traditional understanding of synastry. um and when you're looking at somebody's chart, like, as you know, how we met was through synastry.
Yeah.
um we met because I did that program where we matched astrologers together based on their charts to kind of stimulate conversation, see how it went. And through that, we got to look at a lot of people's charts together. I think that's kind of the best way to learn synastry.
Yeah. It's all about practice. I don't
Yeah.
think that you can just conceptualize it. You have to
Mm-hmm.
kind of have that lived experience to be able
Yeah.
to like feel what it's like whenever you have the different house synastries and things like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you won't know until you experience it, but you probably have because everybody has
Mm-hmm.
such a wide array of charts and things. You just probably don't know that that's what it is
Mm-hmm.
that you're experiencing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk about a few different types of synastry that you can look for. You can use it for your family, for romantic, or even, just hookup relationships. Doesn't those
A little
you can use
spice
it
in your
there.
life.
Oh yeah, you can use it for spicy purposes. um and also in friendships. So kind of, I'm always more interested in, like, how are these two people going to actually relate? Like, how are they going to communicate? What are
Mhm.
they going to have in common, and what common ground can they find even when there might be more challenging aspects? Like,
Mhm.
so that's kind of the foundations that we're going to go through.
I really like to look at what the other person pulls out of,
Mm,
like what person A pulls out of person B or
yeah.
like vice versa, because I
Mhm.
feel like there is this like we talked a lot about illumination
Yeah.
as one of the keywords for synastry, like where different things will be spotlighted with different relationships.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's a great lead into the first kind of synastry that we look at sometimes is luminary synastry.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
literally the light.
Yeah. So when we say luminary synastry, we're not just talking about, sun sign astrology, like a Cancer sun and a Leo sun are not gonna mix. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're more talking about how does the placement of the luminaries, specifically the moon being more, how does that person emotionally interact? How do they feel safe with the other person? Um, Maybe what emotional challenges would be brought out of that person because of that moon placement.
Mhm.
And then the sun is more, how do those two people express themselves with one another? How do they see and receive I guess that's a good, sun and moon is seeing and
Yeah.
receiving one another. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for Elaine and I, like we have our suns square each other, and that's typically why
Mm.
a lot of people are like, oh, well, like Capricorn and Libra is like obviously it's not a good match, on base level when you think about it. But then it's like, no, Saturn is exalted in Libra. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
fine on that level of understanding each other, but there is a friction in the like how we like conceptualize ourselves, I guess. There's like a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a difference in how we think
Definitely.
of what we want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. And then me and Austin, my partner, I'm the Cancer sun and he's the Scorpio sun. So we have that trine. So we
Mhm.
both, the way that we express ourselves flows very naturally together. We both have the water. We both have like that intuitive
Yeah, you
understanding
guys,
of
you
each
do.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where we don't even have to necessarily like say anything. We'll just be like, oh yeah, you ready? Okay.
Yeah, Lane and I don't have that, but it's fine.
That is fine.
Squares are not the end of everything. It's just that we've had
No.
to accept that we are two separate people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of leads in. I mean, we're talking about luminary synastry, but already we're in the next one, which is angle synastry.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even necessarily, I mean, we're talking about, like, when I say angles, I mean ascendant, midheaven, the IC, and the descendant. But I've also noticed, modality
Mhm.
synastry is kind of what I more mean. So when you have two cardinal signs, like two cardinal suns,
Yeah.
or two cardinal moons, there is a square, there is tension there, but at the same time, they are coming from a very similar place. So a lot of time that tension can be used to their benefit.
Yeah, like for Lane and I, I'm just gonna use us because it's
Yeah.
easy, baseline. Like we both have fixed Venuses and fixed Mars,
Mm.
so we have the understanding of each other where we have the same kind of like mode in which we want to do the relating,
Mm-hmm.
but we just go about it like a different way because he's the Scorpio, I'm the Aquarius. There's a little like malefic.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with me and Austin. I think that's why you and I really click
Mhm.
too, because we're both very benefic
Yeah.
people who have malefic
I
partners.
don't know. Am I benefic?
You have a benefic moon. I guess so.
Yeah.
You're more malefic
I
than
have
I,
like
because
so
you
much
are
malefic.
so sad at Saturn.
There's so much Aquarius, it hurts.
I know. um, but at least like for me and Austin, it's like I am like Venus moon and he is
Hmm.
Mars Saturn.
Yeah.
So it's, and that for a lot of people would be like, how does that work? And it's like, well, because
Hmm.
that's a balanced whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have all of that. You can't just have like all trines. You're never going to have all trines. It's never going to flow
Well,
perfect all the
also,
time.
trines are not the best thing ever. Like, let's talk about,
Yes, let's go.
if you've got like a serial killer, right? Like that might be a chart that has a bunch of trines in it, but it would be like some trines between like Saturn and Mars and Pluto. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, there's an easy flow of energy between like the attack and
Mm-hmm.
the dealing with the shit.
You're not wrong.
It's not necessarily like a net good.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing too, is like a trine is just easy flow.
Hmm.
That doesn't, like you said, that doesn't mean that's a good thing. That just means that it like very quickly. So if you have like, if you and your partner's Marses are trying each other,
Hmm.
that might lead to some very like easily triggered quick back and forths that is just
Yeah.
like, whoa, that escalated so quickly. How
Whoa.
did that escalate so quickly? Whoa.
Yeah. It's like you love each other so much you want to kill each other kind of vibes, right? Like,
Definitely. So that definitely like ties us back into, watch your bias, leave the bias at the door when you're looking at charts, and just
hmm.
think about, I think the most important thing about synastry is it's not everything is a relationship. Every planet is relating to something else in the chart. There's so many layers. It can never be reduced to just Libra sun and Capricorn sun don't mix. Like you
Yeah.
have to look at the whole chart and really think about um the implicate, like if you're a whole person, like there might be parts of your personality that like that person actually, let's go into the moon stuff here because this is a great
Yeah.
example.
Okay, cool.
um so my partner has moon in Sagittarius and I have moon in Taurus. So those moon signs are in conjunct. They don't see
Yeah.
each other. They don't have a understanding, and getting onto the same emotional page sometimes and communicating what we're feeling, that can be hard for us. Especially because his moon is in my 8th house.
Yep.
And in my 8th house, I struggle with um I struggle with like trusting other people and using their resources and asking for help. Um and having his moon there, you helped me understand this earlier because I struggle with the 8th house stuff. The dark houses, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening there because I have nothing.
I mean, since they are dark, I feel like it's inherently harder to understand them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Um, and having his moon there really forces me to ask for help. And I'm a very intuitive person, but with him, I have to ask him and like make sure he is telling me what it is that he feels, what he needs.
Mhm.
And at the same time, then I also have to accept that help,
Yeah.
especially through his family. Like the shared resources that they have available, I'm not usually comfortable accepting things like that because in my
Mhm.
family, it always came with a price.
Yep.
But there, it's just like, no, this is something that I have to is it challenging? Yes. Having his moon in my house, is that challenging? Absolutely. Is it a challenge that I personally needed as a person in order to grow and overcome a lot of these self-limiting beliefs? 100%.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good point too, is like some people, like sometimes you need the synastry, just like
Mm-hmm.
you need the transit, you know? It's
Yep,
like,
exactly.
you know, the universe is like, well, this is gonna suck, but you need it for your self-development. So here
Yep.
you go.
Exactly. I mean, the Saturn return exists, so we know that
Yeah.
the universe likes to just the universe gives us the things we need to grow.
Hmm.
Let's not I was gonna say let's not look a gift horse in the mouth, but
Hmm.
I don't know if I would describe Saturn return as that. Is that a gift? It can be. It can be.
I like to think of this medieval imagery that I saw one time, and it's like these little cards that they used to draw for the different planets and kind of their vibes. And
Hmm.
Saturn is on a big dragon, just like coming in with like a scythe, you know, just like I'm gonna fuck some
I'm
shit
gonna
up.
fuck some shit
That's what that's what I imagine the Saturn return is like.
up. So I'm ready to
Getting closer.
go. I love that. Ooh, speaking of Saturn, I mean Saturn Synastry.
Ooh.
I so when you're looking at a so let's go into like relationships here, like long-term
Mhm.
relationships. You could do partnerships, marriages, whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need Saturn. You
Mhm.
do. You just
You
do.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am a big fan of like Moon, Venus, Saturn synastry.
We had Moon opposite Saturn in our marriage chart, and it
Mm.
was it was separating, so it was like a little bit less. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think like was the moon in the moon was like higher up in the sky, so it had a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
of that going for it, and like Saturn was
Mm-hmm.
low and hidden
Oh,
in
okay.
the yeah, that kind of thing. So it felt like it wasn't, it
Yeah.
felt like the moon had a little bit of help, and it
A little
wasn't
bit
just
of a
like
mm-hmm.
Saturn beating up the moon. But
Yeah.
it is like that Saturn makes long contracts and it makes things last. So it
Exactly.
shouldn't be so scary.
Yeah. And I mean, like you pointed out before, there is that inherent relationship between Saturn and Venus where
Mhm.
Saturn has that exaltation in Libra.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a fan of balance. It's a fan of putting in the work to make something work. It's a fan
Yeah.
of, Saturn and Venus having that kind of an aspect in a relationship. It can definitely bring challenges because it's going to
Mhm.
force you to confront what you actually value and how important it is to draw it out in a relationship and how you can or cannot draw it out in a relationship.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
that's a good one.
yeah. So I like, leave your bias at the door. Saturn, you sometimes need that not sometimes. I would argue like you need Saturn in a relationship if it's going
Yeah.
to be something that lasts.
Well, I think you need like, well, I guess if we're getting into the whole like balance thing,
Mm,
we're all a part of, we all have a little piece of every planet because we need every planet to be a balanced person, you
mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like some shit sucks a little bit more, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily a
Yeah.
bad thing.
And that's a good point with balance too, and kind of brings us back to like, you know, having someone with a chart that's different from yours
Mhm.
isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, Lane and I, like my whole chart is like the only houses that I have placements in are like from the 12th to the 5th. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of Lane's is on the other side where it's like
Uh-huh.
the 3rd through the
Yeah,
11th, and like he's got
exactly.
all the other half and also like the other half of the zodiac signs kind of too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're opposites.
But opposites attract.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a good lead in to kind of go back to angle synastry. Because when every rising sign has the opposite house, which is the
Mhm.
seventh house. And often the seventh house is where you're going to find relationships. And that doesn't have to be romantic. It can be business partnerships. It can be like, for an example, you and I,
Yeah.
Cancer sun, Capricorn sun.
Mhm.
My sun you're also Capricorn rising. So my sun's in your seventh house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that a lot of my relationships come through my moon because my seventh house
Mm,
is Cancer, so it is ruled by my moon in Taurus in the
yeah.
fifth. So a lot of my important relationships come from like games or just fun little things that I don't even like think about as being important. It's
I have the
Yeah.
same placement, dude, but with a different planet. My seventh house is
Oh.
Scorpio, ruled by my fifth house, Virgo Mars.
Oh, that's funny.
And I met
Okay.
Austin through a band that we were playing in together. That's so
Okay.
cool.
Okay, bye.
Right?
So, like that's how that happens. Or like Lane and
Mm-hmm.
I, we got together because we were just having a fun time, and didn't think it
Exactly.
was going to be anything
Yeah.
serious. And then it's like, okay, well, now we've been together for like 8 years. So here we are.
Exactly. And that brings up another good point. We're just rolling today with all the good points. Um, but looking at not just your seventh house, but the ruler of your seventh house,
Hmm.
looking at the ruler of your ascendant. What is the
Hmm.
ruler of your seventh house doing in your chart? What is the ruler of your seventh house doing in your partner's chart or doing
Yes.
in your friend's chart?
Hmm.
What is the ruler of your ascendant doing in your own chart? And how does that interact with what your ruler is doing in their chart? Like there's
Yeah.
so many different ways to look for these connections, and it's like
Yeah.
a story that will continue to evolve, continue, like you're never going to get to the end of the story that you're creating with this person because
Hmm.
there's so many different layers that you can go through.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
an ever-going story. And,
Yeah.
it's like everybody says this, but you can look at a chart for years and then you'll look at it and notice something that you didn't notice before. So
Mm-hmm.
there's never enough
Exactly.
looking at something and relating.
Yeah. And that's what's, I feel like that's the beauty of astrology. Like it's an ever, I would argue, an ever evolving language that we're learning how to read and reread and interpret and
Yeah.
metaphorize. And it's just constantly, it's very cool
Yeah,
to
it's living,
it.
It's
Exactly.
it's not a dead language.
It is a live and living color.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Um, I'm trying to think. I guess we kind of talked a little bit about angle synastry, but I do really want to like
Go
nail
into.
that home
Okay, cool.
because
Every
dang.
Yeah, every important relationship that I have that is like very high up important for me, I have angle synastry with those people. It
Yep.
just without fail every time.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Same. Yeah, well, Austin and I are both fixed rising, so then all of our angles are together.
Hmm.
Um, my little sister, who, dude, all of my siblings, we all have fixed risings except for my brother, who has a mutable rising, like I suspect my mother does.
Oh yeah,
Yep,
we
and
were
then,
talking about that. Yeah.
mhm.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, family synastry is,
Yeah, because they have the Saturn. They have Saturn in the first house too. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so and that's interesting that the siblings that I have fixed, I share the fixed risings with, we're all much, much closer together than my brother and my mom, who are the closest ones together. Like those two,
Hmm.
they're like peas in a pod. Um, because when you come from your angles determine those spots in your life that are, I guess, most active, most prominent, you could say. Like your rising is
Yeah.
your identity, your person, your body.
Hmm.
The fourth house is typically where the IC is, but the IC, yours is in the
It
fifth
can
house.
shift. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It
I feel
kind
like
of
the
shows
IC.
it shows your roots.
Hmm. Yeah, your roots where you come from. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's funny if you ask people that have the IC kind of moved into different places. I've noticed that a lot of us, like home isn't a place for us. It's like
Mm,
it's a little bit more abstract than that,
yeah. Yeah. So that's why I see the IC more as what you're rooted in,
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
you're what I like. I'm even home isn't even necessarily a word I like for the IC.
No,
It's
I think the
more
where you come from is
mm-hmm,
more indicative, or like what your early life experiences were. I see
mm-hmm.
that a lot of
Okay,
times,
yeah.
so like
History.
yeah, and like the moon icy thing, you'll see a lot of people that had like their mothers were going through some shit
Mm.
whenever they were
Oh,
really little.
dude, you and I both
Yeah.
have angular moons,
Yeah, we do.
angular Taurus moons. Wow.
Mhm. Yeah. So like
Wow.
Lane and I both have our moons on the IC, and it's also
Mm.
funny because we're the most painful homebodies. Like we've made like Fort Phillips, and we're like, you can't make us leave. Like we're here.
We're here, not leaving. Goodbye.
I swear, once we start doing grocery delivery, it's gonna be over.
Over, bro. Oh my God, I did that the other day and it was a dream, an absolute dream. It was
It just,
perfect.
I'm like, will other people pick out the groceries correctly like me though? You know what I
That
mean?
was my fear. And you know what? He did pick out good blueberries, and that was my test. That was my
Okay.
test because, I'm very
You know,
particular.
they're different. Some of
But
those berries are not ripe whenever they're at the store.
no, or they're too squishy. And then it's like,
Hmm.
yeah. But what were we talking about? The IC?
I see. Yeah, and let's do the MC.
Oh, yes.
We'll
Okay.
just
So
go.
IC is like your roots. We already talked about the descendant being in the seventh house, being
Hmm.
relationships, other, which is the opposite of identity and self.
Hmm.
So then naturally the opposite of your roots would be, you know what I just saw in my head?
What?
The IC is the roots, and then the MC is the tree. It's the leaves. It's the
Aw.
part that you see. It's the part
Yeah,
that
the
we identify
canopy.
as the tree, even though that may not necessarily be what the tree is itself. The
Hmm.
tree isn't the leaves, it's the whole thing, but
Yeah.
that's the part that people see.
Yeah.
So similarly, the midheaven is often the way that you're seen in the world, the way that you show up, the what you're known for.
Hmm.
Um,
And people without
yeah.
planets on the MC or
Hmm.
surrounding, that doesn't mean that you don't show up
Exactly.
in the world or like people don't
Yeah.
see you. It's just that there's probably a little bit less emphasis in that area of your life than others,
Yeah.
which
I even would say like there may not even be less emphasis, but it just may be less active or less
hmm.
of a conscious engagement because I have
Yeah.
an Aquarius midheaven with nothing in it.
Hmm.
And then it's ruled by 11th house Pisces and Saturn and Pisces.
Hmm.
Man, that 12th house Mercury today is really
It's putting us through. No,
oh
you know
yeah.
how you see how I live now,
Yeah.
except for the Mercury's in Virgo. So
Well, yeah, at least that has dignity right now. You're just
yeah.
out here like living 12th house Sag Mercury, baby. I love
All
it
I
though.
talk about is esoteric shit.
I, I fucking love it.
And it's also like it's in aspect to Jupiter, so
Oh,
that's
hell
fine.
yeah. Oh, hell yeah. We're here for
Yeah.
it.
Anyways, sorry.
No, you're
We're
good.
good.
But it's ruled by that 11th house Pisces Saturn, so
Hmm.
which then is ruled by my 8th house Jupiter in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
So there's like it's not my career has never been me like in the public eye, me doing something, prominent or anything, but I mean,
Hmm.
Jupiter, see, Saturn, Saturn and Pisces. Having a Saturn ruled 10th house means I have had to like work really hard to figure out what it is I want to be seen doing. Like I have felt it's been a longer, more difficult process. Like I'm about to go into my Saturn return and I'm only just now kind of figuring out what I want my career to be.
Yeah.
So
No, feel
it's
that.
yeah, exactly. So it's not
Yeah.
that my career hasn't been prominent. It's just been one of those things where, I have more focus in my third house. So I've just been doing more third house things and been like, oh yeah, my career, huh? Okay, I'm just gonna do these third house things and hope it works out. And lo and behold.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that because I don't have any planets in the visible
Mm-hmm.
realm of the chart, like except
True.
for my 12th house. That's the only part that I
Mm-hmm.
have them above that midline.
Is your son, you're technically a day chart, right?
No, I'm technically a
No.
night chart. So
Oh,
because it's
wow.
3 degrees below the descendant or ascendant, so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I kind of like messed around to see like was Saturn a harder part for me or was Mars a harder part for me? But it gets a
Mm-hmm.
little bit confusing because my Mars is enclosed by benefics. So it's kind of like, well,
Mm.
the Mars things are not really that Marsy because I have,
Uh-huh.
Jupiter and Venus putting out the fires.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't know. That's an ever-going question for me.
That
But
makes sense.
I'm pretty sure that because the Saturn stuff has been a little bit harder for me, that
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a night chart thing.
Yeah,
But there's
I
some
definitely relate.
ambiguity. There's
Mm-hmm.
some ambiguity, but pretty much everything is below the horizon line for me. So a
Wow.
lot of the stuff that I focus on is more internal work or my
Mm.
home life, or, I really like to knit. And that feels
Yeah.
very, the fifth house. That's very fifth housey
Oh yeah.
type things. But a lot of that stuff is like feeding into like what my career will be, because my 10th house is in
Mm-hmm.
Libra, it's ruled by Venus. So that goes
Mm-hmm.
back into my second house stellium. So all of that falls into the resources and shit are really important
Mm-hmm.
for me. And also
Absolutely.
food. Food is really important for me.
Same, bro. But is that just our Taurus moons
That's
though?
just
Like, I don't know.
the second house is working.
But what you just did was a really good example how like that's what delineation looks like. That's what like we're figuring out the synastry between ourselves and career. Like
Mhm.
you have to put that much thought into it when you're looking at your synastry with another person. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like it's not just going to be the 10th house. It's going to be the ruler of the 10th house and what rules the ruler of the 10th house and where that's placed and
Mhm.
so
Yeah, if you don't have a planet somewhere, or like you don't have a planet in somebody else's house in a chart,
mhm,
it doesn't mean that nothing's happening there. It just means that
exactly.
you gotta go down the rabbit hole a little bit farther to kind of investigate what is happening.
Yeah. And it's important to be honest with yourself too, if you're going to be looking at synastry from the lens of, can that's typically the most common synastry lenses. Is this person a good match for me? Relatable content. I do not say that judgmentally because I absolutely have done this. Um,
No, no, every day I log on to Reddit, and there's always someone that's like, uh, should I date this person?
Here's
And
here's
it
his
makes me
birth
laugh.
time every time, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Oh,
yeah, I do the same thing with my
I mean,
literal fiance.
yeah, no, really though. I was like, okay, before Lane and I were like getting engaged and stuff, I was like, okay, I gotta make sure that
Gotta
we're like airtight here.
and that's the thing is it's not always going to be airtight.
No.
It's there's going to be because when I first started looking at it on first glance, so I'm a Taurus rising and he has a mega Scorpio stellium.
Mhm.
So that includes Sun and Venus. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, his Sun and Venus are in my seventh house. Like that is a loud yes. That is a loud
Mhm.
like hello. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Puts my moon in his fourth house. So then my moon is angular for him. I feel like home,
Mhm.
which is great. But then I started looking, I'm like, shit, his moon's in my eighth house. It's squaring my Mars, which is in my fifth house. And my Sun and Venus are in his sixth house. Hmm. And I started
Yeah.
being like, what the fuck? That's not good.
That's not good.
But like we were talking about earlier, and like throughout this entire episode at this point, it's like you have to think about how having those things highlighted by that person in your life, in your chart, like how would it feel? How is it going to feel to have someone's moon in your eighth house? How is it going to feel to have someone's sun in your sixth house? Is that
Yeah.
going to be comfortable? Maybe not. Can that be constructive? Absolutely.
Well, also another thing too, another layer of it is like based on your own chart, is it going to be comfortable for
Mm,
you, not just in general? Because, like Lane's sun is in my 10th house. That's like opposing a lot of the shit that I have
yeah.
going on. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be seen. But he's pushed
Mm-hmm.
me into feeling like I can express myself and be seen a little bit more. And,
Yeah.
doing those kind of like 10th housey things, he's
Mm-hmm.
brought that out a little bit more and like highlighted
Yeah.
it for me.
Which is cool. Like I feel like Sinistry can be used so intentionally and is such a incredible tool for understanding like and for improving your relationships because if you see and you understand oh shit his son like I was just saying earlier my son is in my dad's 12th house
Yeah.
and he calls me his rebel and I do shine a light on things that he would much rather have hidden and never said ever and
Yeah.
that is super uncomfortable for him
hmm
um
Yeah, 12 house synastry, some people hate it. Some
yeah
people
and
are
that's
like, fuck
understandable
no. Yeah.
yeah
But
but then
then, some people are like, oh, I love this. Let's get down in
yes,
the
because
nitty gritty.
it feels like so
Yeah.
seen and so deep.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's great.
Yeah, Lane and I both have my Saturn is in his 12th, and then
Mm.
and my 12th is his Jupiter. So like
Oh,
we both
wow.
have that 12th house synastry with each other, which
Yep.
has been interesting. And like the snafus that you get with 12th house synastry where it's like, do they like me? Like that kind of thing.
Are you sure
There,
you won't tell me? I don't know.
yeah, there's a lot of that, which is funny
Yeah.
looking back. But there's also that like I have never had anybody who has like seen into my core in that way. And I don't think he has either. So, you know.
Yeah. And that is so valuable. That's
Hmm.
I do really like the dark house synastry, like 2, 6, 8, 12. Those,
Hmm.
if you, the biggest thing with synastry is just remaining open, curious, and honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Just be open to experiencing, or be on, okay, starting that one over. Be honest with yourself on how much you are willing and able to experience. Be
Hmm.
honest, like if you can't handle somebody's sun being in your 12th house right now in your life, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. But
Hmm.
know that.
Yeah.
Be honest with that. Be honest with yourself on that. And that's why, oh, man, it's such a good tool because you can see that and be like, oh, okay, this is why that person makes me feel so insecure and like they
Yeah.
see every part of me that I don't want them to see. Like their sun is literally illuminating everything I'd rather keep hidden,
Yeah. Or
and use that.
yeah, or like what we were talking about the other day with Gabby and Rachel from The
Oh yeah.
Bachelorette, like that first house synastry where there's like that
Mm,
little uncomfortableness where it's kind of like being pulled out, oh, like they are getting more attention than me, or something like that, where it's like
mm-hmm.
very blatant that,
Yeah,
whenever you're lacking or something like that.
exactly.
Did I word that correctly?
I know what you're saying because we were
Okay.
talking about how we've been trying to figure out who their
Translate
rising
for the Sag
signs.
Mercury.
Oh yeah, rely on the Cancer Mercury. That's so much better. um so Gabby and Rachel, they're both bachelorettes, where we've been hypothesizing that we believe essentially based on their synastry that I think it was Gabby's son would be in Rachel's first house or vice versa, something
Hmm.
like that. But
Yeah.
basically the other girl's son would be in like her first house. And
Hmm.
having someone else's son in your first house when you don't have that placement yourself, that can feel sometimes like they are getting the attention that you wish you had for your
Hmm.
identity, that like
Yes.
people recognize in them the thing that you are yourself. But
Hmm.
if you don't have the sun in there, sometimes you're, well, I should say you're going to be more relying on the placement of your ascendant to kind of communicate who you
Hmm.
are. But someone with a sun in the first, like they're just going to be that. They are that.
Hello.
Yes, like you are Capricorn, you are
Yeah,
Saturn, you express
it
that,
just
you embody
yeah.
that, and that's super cool.
Mhm. And my
um
mom hates it, which is funny. So like I find that 12th house sons don't like me a lot of the times because they feel
mm,
really uncomfy.
yeah, because it's like, how can this person be so confident like expressing themselves when I
Hmm.
am not? And
Yeah.
that's a very natural thing to experience, and I think that's why synastry can be such a powerful tool to really illuminate. God, dude, if I could be a synastry therapist, can you imagine?
Okay, Miss Cancer.
Saturn and Pisces in the 11th, like, let me bring you all together. I also,
Yo,
dude, I also
what
have,
if?
I'm just saying, I also have my, oh, we didn't talk about this yet, but nodal synastry, the north and
Oh,
south node. This is
yeah.
my lead in. So my north node is in the Scorpio 7th house. So like I am literally like moving,
Literally.
literally, oh man, literally moving towards relationship, like
Hmm.
exploring relationship, going deep, and it's in Scorpio. So it's like we are going deep.
You're like X-ray on that shit, and then you're
I
like,
see
that's not
you.
deep enough. I must see another layer, you
Another
know?
labor. Get her in the CAT scan. Let's go. I don't even know
Rami's
what CAT
like,
scans do. I'm not gonna lie to you.
oh, well, sometimes like whenever you get those things, it's like these big magnets that are running around and they do like a I'm not
I
gonna get
just
into
wait, I just
this.
literally had a picture of magnets, like the U-shaped magnets with little legs and googly eyes, like running
Yeah.
around.
No, they're bigger than that. I'll explain it to you later.
Cool, 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 cool. We'll
I
have a
don't think we
fun
need to go
conversation
off
about
on
CAT
that.
scans.
Yeah. But
Oh my God.
I have my North Node in the ninth house, which is
Yes.
where it is the anti-joy of the North Node. It doesn't want to
Mm-hmm.
be there. It's like I heard it explained to me once, like Rahu is awkward in church. Like
Dude, yes.
doesn't want to be in church, you know.
Yes.
And funnily enough, I was also awkward in church. I didn't like
Relatable
it.
content. I have Uranus and Neptune in the ninth house. I feel you.
Yeah. So, I didn't like it. But I'm also the person that I feel like my brain is just hooked up all the time to an IV of knowledge, where I'm just
Ooh,
like listening to stuff all the time. And then every once in a while, I'm like, whoa, I really need to give my brain a break because I'm
dude,
just putting too much shit in it all the time.
same. Constantly just consuming.
Yeah.
And that's the Rahu for you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's in Virgo, so it's just like trying to organize all of the shit and make sense of it. But
Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
And often, like, so my North Node is in that seventh house Scorpio, and that puts my South Node right next to my moon in Taurus, which is super cute. Yes, I have mama drama. We'll just put that one right on out there. But also that puts my South Node right on your IC.
Hmm.
Like I'm pretty sure by a degree or so.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last episode where we
Yes.
highlighted our nodal
Mm-hmm.
synastry. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And nodal synastry, I find often gives a feeling of you just know that person.
Hmm.
I'm still deciding how much past life stuff I would like to endorse. However,
Yeah, I
that
don't
is
know
what
about
it
that for me.
feels like. It's what it
Hmm.
feels like, though, is that like I know you. I've been
Yeah.
with you before we have a history that goes beyond what
Hmm.
I can describe.
Well, no, like I'll literally be thinking about things and I'm thinking about college and I'm like, yeah, Hannah in college. And then I'm like, no, Hannah wasn't in
Hannah was
college.
not there.
Hannah was not there.
We met how many months ago?
I don't know. Lane asked me that the other day. He was like, how long have you known Hannah? And I was like, a few
Like
months.
since May, since
Yeah.
April. It's August now.
Oh my God, really? That short?
Dude, yeah.
Holy
I mean,
shit.
I put out the niche stuff in March, and then it was
And I just like randomly found it on Twitter, by the way. I was like, should I apply for this or not? And I was like thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if anyone will even be matched with me. Like, what if I don't have
little did you
synastry with
know.
anybody? That's so true. And in our first meeting, I remember I asked, I was like, so did you match us with each other? Because I was like a last resort, or like,
No, I
you know
had
what I mean?
matched you. It was that series of events that like I
Yeah.
had you match with other people dropped out. But then when I looked at our charts, I was like, shut the fuck up. I have to be with this person because there's no way.
There's no way. And here we
Oh
are
yeah.
later. Beautiful
Yeah.
friendship
We've done it.
already.
Yes. We leaned into
Yeah,
that synastry. We said,
we did.
got you.
We said trust it. Sometimes, it's
Hmm.
not bad to trust the vibes.
Trust the flow.
Yeah.
Trust
But with
it.
nodal synastry too, I just want to make like a quick side note. Is
Yeah.
like if you have something on your nodes, that means inherently eclipses are going to be more loud for you. So
Hmm.
I think that if we bring that into like a relationship thing, where like if
Hmm.
you have eclipses in your synastry, or like I said that weird. If you have nodal synastry with
Mm.
somebody else, then eclipses you could find that those are something that maybe you have different points or markers in your relationship that
Hmm.
it kind of like highlights a bit for you. Like I know
Yeah.
some people that got married on eclipses and they're like stuck in this whole like eclipse cycle thing
Wow.
where yeah, it's like they got married on an eclipse and then they got like divorced on an eclipse or, something like that.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see. So I chaotically started a band on the last eclipse. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like I intentionally did that. It was just that was the timing that the proposition came through. And I was looking at it and I'm like
Mhm.
our first rehearsal was on an eclipse. It was the day of the eclipse.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
hello.
Oh, yeah. So I just was like, I've been making jokes about it since day one. I've just been looking at them like, we'll see where it goes. I'm like, yo. And now there's starting to be these like things coming up that are like activating that. Cause I mean, right now I definitely feel like the eclipses from when was I, May?
It was like March, April, I think,
Yes,
or April, May.
because
I know
I did
one of
meet
them was in
during the
April.
eclipses.
Yeah.
LOL. So technically we'd have an eclipse friendship.
LOL at that being like in my on our moons. Because like this
Yeah.
eclipse cycle is on our moons.
Literally, yes. That's so
And
funny.
then it highlighting my MC from the Scorpio one and then us starting a podcast from it.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and we'd
okay.
have them coming up. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that
Yeah.
it activates 1 and 7 for me and 5 and
11.
11 for you. It's 11, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's okay.
awesome.
I have to go through my head and like sometimes I have to like count on the wheel and I'm like, what are numbers?
I'm just like, okay, so if it's a Aquarius rising, 12, 11, 10, Scorpio, okay. Or something like that.
No, I do that too.
All the time. All
Yeah.
the time.
Don't feel any shame for having to like count shit or look stuff up on a
No,
zodiacal
guys.
wheel. Like I
Do you know how many times I've Googled perfection chart or perfection
yes,
astrology? Because I'm like, I don't remember the
I
numbers.
have
I
it
need to see it.
saved. Yeah, I have it saved in my
That's
phone. I have some little like Chris Brennan has some really great things that he'll put out where they're
mm-hmm.
the little infographic things.
Yep. Love that.
Have a lot of those saved on my phone.
Yeah, saving them. That would be a much better thing than having 76 tabs open on my Safari and just hoping that it's in there somewhere. Once I went through and
That
I
hurts
counted,
me.
once I went through and counted, and it was I have the private and I have the regular. The private was like 46 and the other one was like 78.
Hannah, stop. I can't. Do not delete your emails either.
I have 2,500 unread ones, apparently. So no, it's too much. There's so many. It takes
I will
so
organize it for
long.
you.
No, I can do it. Me, eighth house Jupiter. I can do it myself. Oh
My
my
ninth,
God.
my North Node in Virgo is like
Let
must
me do
clean and
this.
organize.
Dude. Oh my God.
Mm.
Yeah. So Anna and I basically have known each other forever. That's what nodal synastry is.
Yeah, it feels like it at least for
Yeah.
sure. I
Um,
think angle synastry also plays into that too, though.
yes.
That's very like you're just inherently connected. I
Yeah.
think I said this in the last episode, but like whenever something happens on one of the angles, it's also happening simultaneously in someone else's chart on an angle. So
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So anytime that you guys are experiencing something angularly together, that's
mhm.
just, it's the same level of, not same level, but a similar level of intensity.
Yeah.
That feels very relatable.
Mhm. And it's always
Um,
funny because I feel like all of us get down bad around. I've noticed it with the eclipses, and this is Scorpio Taurus axis specifically, because it's like Austin is highlighted by that, Lena's highlighted by that, you're highlighted by that, and I am too.
oh
And I feel like
yeah.
all four of us are just down bad at the same time. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
We'll be text each other like, is everything okay? Because it's not here.
it does not feel okay.
It's not. Oh yeah. Or oh my God, when we'll have like something very similar happen with like our moms or our families at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
I have
Cool
another
beans.
I have another friend that we both have fixed moons,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I swear it's so funny. It's like one of our moms is being really good and the other one is being really crappy and it switches off like clockwork. It's like they are never both good at the same time, you know.
Oh my
Or
God.
maybe I shouldn't phrase it like that. It is never like the easy part of the relationship where it's flowing at the same time. Not that our
Exactly.
moms are being bad, but just that
It's not flowing the
the
right way.
tension. The
Mm-hmm.
tension is
Oh yeah.
there. You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
everybody has tension.
that's a good point too, is that, on top of the synastry that you already have with somebody, that synastry is going to be activated by the current transits, which
Yeah.
is what we've kind of been talking about this whole time with the eclipses.
Mhm.
But like that's like a third layer.
Yeah.
Like we've got
The
all of
iceberg
those
is
things.
deep.
So you do have to think about that too, and oh man, what a great hello. Today my name is Hannah and I think synastry is a great tool for everything.
I
I was
feel
about to
like
say
you're about to make a little infomercial, like a car salesman for Synastry, and it's like, "Hi, I'm Hannah, and I can hook you up with some Synastry for you know."
That's how I feel. I want to scream it to the rooftops because if you just look at these things, like if you just look at you and your partner's chart and see, oh, he has Mars here and I have the moon here. And right now Mars is about to transit over all of that.
Mhm.
This is going to be a little bit more of a challenging time.
Yeah. No, and that is so freaking true though, as like you might find if things are just not feeling good in not honeymoony, it might just be a transit and it will pass at a certain point,
Yes.
because I know
Yes.
like eclipse season is inherently rough for Lane and I because he has the sun on the node.
Ooh,
So he is very nodal in general. And
yeah.
then the last couple, before it was like hitting my first and my seventh house. So all of them
Mhm.
have just been very like angular for us for a while.
Yeah.
So, or wait, no, that wasn't the last set of them. Anyways, whatever they were in
Hmm.
Capricorn and Cancer, it was also
Well,
it was a tough
definitely.
time. Yeah.
And that makes sense too, especially with nodal translits, because you guys both have strong Capricorn and Cancer placements. So,
Mhm.
man, and now we're in the Taurus and Scorpio, and then it's going to be Libra and Aries. So then his
His 12th house, 6th house is going to be so lit up, and that's going to
dude,
be
yeah, and it'll be his
the
nodal
whole thing.
reversal.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm
I'm
doing now.
afraid.
Yeah. We'll
I've heard
see.
this described like it feels like your whole world is just opposite, and the universe is trying to balance you to where you have to lean into your south node where you might not want to, and you have to let go of your north node a little bit, and
Yep.
you just gotta accept it.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited for it personally,
Mhm.
because for me, my South Node's in my first house.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting.
And
Oh,
so
wow.
right now the whole Urana Marahu just happened in my first house. And I joined the gym. So hello, first
Hello.
first house. So
That's
I'm
good
excited.
shit.
I mean, this is kind of a side note, but I've been kind of neglecting like my physical health
Mhm.
for a while now. So like having this North Node focus in that first house, like I'm getting the gym done, I'm getting the doctor's appointments done, like, and that
Yeah.
is completely, like you just said, completely opposite from what I usually would do, would be seventh
Hmm.
house north,
North
seventh
Node.
house north node.
Well, I think you also tend
Focusing
to,
on other people.
yeah, you care way more about other people than you do about yourself a lot of the times. So, you
Yeah.
know.
You were literally just yelling at me last night for that.
I don't yell at her, guys.
No, it was just one sentence where I was like, damn, okay. It's
It's
like
just this Saturn. It just comes out.
I love it. And hey, that's why I appreciate the Saturn. That's a good point too. Finding people who have synastry, who have like stronger, that's a way you can mitigate your own shit.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you having so much Saturn is so helpful for I'm such a lunar person. So
Mhm.
I having the structure and the solidness to balance out my very much changeability
Yeah.
is
It
so
helps.
refreshing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you're
Yeah.
also kind of like, just relax and have a good time, man. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that?
I'm like, just like sitting back, thinking, chatting,
Or
not
like
planning.
you also make me think about other people a lot more than I think I normally do, which that sounds bad, but it's like more like, oh hey, you have to like genuinely interact with people and like talk to them. That's like a part of being human, And I'm like, what's that?
What do you mean? Other people? Why? Well, that makes sense though. First house sun you have.
Yeah,
That makes so much sense. Oh, I love when it
it's just
makes
there.
sense. And you have South Node in third house. So communicating with people in your immediate environment is not
Oh my
necessarily,
God. I have
yeah.
social anxiety so bad. That's what that is for me, for real.
So then that's really cool synastry for us then. You have a South Node in the third house, and I'm a very third house person. So
Yes.
I pull that out of you.
Yeah. You make me more comfortable with the relating and stuff, which Lane has done that too,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, his moon is in his third house, isn't it?
mhm.
There it
Yeah, so
is.
he's
Yeah.
he's very third housey. He's very like third house, sixth house for him. Those are the two and the
Mm,
seventh. Like those three feel like his main
yeah.
focuses for me.
Yeah.
So you guys are both very like seventh housey kind of relating types. So
Yes.
that's funny that I have the people that are more relating and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
like big picture.
Yeah, you could very often look to your third, seventh, and 11 houses to see what kind of folks might naturally fit into your life better. Might just
Yeah.
naturally, so because third house is immediate, environment, neighbors, siblings, people who you maybe just encounter because of your proximity to them. Seventh house is more intentional, like one-on-one relationships. And then the 11th is your community. So
Yeah.
For you having the seventh house Cancer, people who have Cancer placements are just naturally
Yeah, I
bring
love
that kind of
them.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It feels homey. And
Yeah.
also, I would like to point out that the third, seventh, and 11th are always going to be in a trine with each other, so they'll always have
Yes.
the same element.
Yes, exactly.
So,
So water folks for you.
yeah.
And also for me, because
Mhm.
I have third house Cancer. Yep.
Yeah, because we're both Earth risings.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's another one that we did talk about. Element synastry.
Yes.
That is 100% a thing. We're both Earth risings, or we have all of those
Yeah.
3, 7,
I
11 modality or element.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of sets you up where there's like a natural pair of people that kind of like balance each other, and then there's a natural pair that kind of like vibes with each other really
Yeah.
easily. Where I feel like water and earth kind of just like vibe inherently, but
Mm-hmm.
then there's more of that like balance that will happen too between the two
Yes.
because you're always
Yeah.
going to have the oppositions. You're always going to be a water sign versus an earth sign, and then it's
Exactly.
always going to be fire versus air. So
Yeah, it's
here I
really
am. I brought that up so much in this episode.
no, but it's like that's the point though, is like everything does tie back in together. Like astrology, you can't take one thing and not have it relate to everything else because
Yeah.
and that's the point. Like astrology is a language of relationship. That's
Boom.
boom. Astrology is synastry.
Thanks
Mic
for coming
drop.
to our TED Talk. In this essay, I will.
This essay, I will. Oh, don't get me started. I'm gonna start writing something and be like, Norwalk 2025. I'm coming for you.
Hannah will actually write an essay.
I will absolutely write an essay.
I will cheer you on. You go, girl.
I did actually like relational astrology. I guess that is just my thing. Like seventh house North Node. That I keep saying it, but like it is. It is. And I'm so excited to keep talking about it here with you because it's fun.
We love it here. We're just
We
having a
love
good
it here.
time.
Absolutely. Any last thoughts on Synastry?
Um,
Any? I'm trying to see if I had
maybe.
anything else.
Trying to think.
The only thing we hit pretty much everything. I think the only thing we didn't hit was like conjunction synastry. You definitely mentioned it.
Yeah.
And that one's a little bit more obvious. Like anytime that you have a planet that conjoins a planet in the other person's chart. So say you have your Venus conjunct somebody else's Mars, the relationship between those two planets archetypes in your life will be highlighted. It'll be a point of focus.
Yeah, and conjunctions tend to be like a blending of two things that come together, and then it just like they are inherently entwined because they're so close. It's also the strongest aspect because it has like the least number of divisions of the circle, which we can get into that at some point
Yeah.
if you want.
Oh my God, yes.
Just
We'll
something
get
about aspects.
technical. Oh yeah.
Technical. I love the technical. Hello,
Technical.
Virgo night. Hello, Virgo North Node.
Literally, yes. It works so well.
It's so good.
I mean,
But
look
yeah.
at just that synastry of you and I with our North nodes. Like, I'm just going back to nodes because we're having fun with
We're
it.
on it.
We're on it. But like you have the ninth house Virgo and I have seventh house Scorpio. So it's like we are inherently poised to dive deep and dig into like what it is that makes like get very ninth housey about relationships.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, that's cute.
yeah,
I got
that's
little
really
tingles on
cool.
my back.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I
So
guess one thing I would say, just like final thoughts on Synastry, is if you have had a bad experience with someone, do not just write off all of their placements as the fact that you don't like them, because I thought that I hated all Pisces placements whenever I was like 15. Because I had had an experience with someone that they were Pisces sun, and I was like, wow, that person sucks. you know?
Fuck Pisces, man.
Yeah, we just didn't get along with each other. And I'm sure there were other mitigating factors in our synastry that would have explained it, but obviously I was 15. I didn't know anything besides sun signs. So I would just encourage you not to write people off because you think that just because you have one bad experience with someone with those placements, they might not be like manifesting in the same way for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point because there's a lot of that bias and sun sign astrology and pop astrology that
Mhm.
really leans into a lot of that and causes a lot of division. And I guess I'll use this as my last point, but astrology is about connection. It's
Mhm.
about bringing people together. And if you do have bad experiences with someone, I do encourage you to look at their chart and do those three things we were talking about earlier. Be honest
Mhm.
with yourself, be open, and be
Mhm.
curious.
Yeah, just see what the heck the interactions are. I also
Yeah.
find that sometimes looking at things through an astrological lens creates the space between the event and the emotion, where sometimes
Mm,
you can kind of step back a little bit and maybe have some healing for yourself with the situation,
yeah.
because then you're not like right here with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I mean, practicing that with astrology, that can be hard sometimes. You can get
Yeah.
very tied up in your own chart and very attached and very that bias comes in. Like bias is something that we are taught as children to have. Like that is something we will all have to work as adults to not engage in.
Mhm.
So I think it's a very good looking at your chart with someone else's is a very good opportunity to step back from your bias and get fucking curious, man. Let's go. Let's learn about people. Let's bring people together. So I guess that'll do it for us here today.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like that's it. I feel
yeah, we're
complete.
I do too. Tell the people where they can find you, Anna.
Okay, they can find me at Sappy Saturnian on Twitter.
And you guys can find me at Astrology on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find us both at Primordial Threads on Twitter,
And
Instagram, and YouTube.
we also have a cute little card thing that you can look at in the link in our bio on our Twitter, where you can
Mhm.
see all the links to our other stuff if you want. We'll also have it posted up in the bio for our YouTube and check out other stuff like, comment, subscribe, tell us what you want to see.
We're excited to keep exploring and unraveling these threads with you guys.
I feel like I'm
Bye.
making cute little songs in my head.
I know. I'm just like hearing the music play out. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.